Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is SatTV. I'm pleased to be joined by Anirban Chakraborty, Chief Growth Officer at Comtech. Today we're going to talk about EVOKE, the company's new Innovation Foundry. Anirban, welcome. What is EVOKE and why was it started?
Thank you, Richard, for having me. Really appreciate this opportunity. Now, what is EVOKE? At a very high level, EVOKE is Comtech's new Innovation Foundry, and it has various flavors when it comes to defining what it is. The objective is to collaborate by creating an ecosystem of partners, customers, academia, and maybe a few other peers to bring up this ecosystem of innovation and trying to push the boundaries of technologies. Now, we have been a technology company since our inception, and when we look around and try to understand the speed at which innovation happens, that speed in itself is very, very exponential. So that kind of gives us the hint or the motivation that, hey, listen, while we are trying to address our customers today, while we are trying to address our needs to innovate, maybe the acceleration needs to happen in-house when it comes to defining new technologies, new solutions, new paradigms. So that's why EVOKE came into existence. Now, why collaboration? Because in today's day and age, it won't be very wise to just stand up and assume that whatever the need is from a customer perspective or a customer's customer perspective can all be addressed by ourselves. We definitely value collaboration. We definitely understand that if we plan it right, if we do it right, there is always 1 + 1, which is greater than 2. And here in EVOKE is that's one of our primary goals, that how can we bring in multiple parties that have a win-win situation at the end of the day and yet be able to create something which is more than the individual value propositions. So that's my take as to what is EVOKE, why was it instantiated, and what is the value that it's trying to bring in to the ecosystem today.
Now, what partners are you working with? I mean, we've seen the announcement that you've signed up with some people, but what does it mean? Who are they?
Well, I think I'll try to answer the question from not just who are they, but then what are they? Let me take a step back to answer the question as to why are we partnering with some of these partners, right? What we did is we created something which we call as our own vision of year 2030. So in other words, once this current decade ends in year 2030, what's going to be the landscape of the technology ecosystem? And hence, how will the customer or customer's customer or end consumer behave from their current or deviate from their current behavior in 2030 to consume some of these services? We have heard a lot about Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution. We have heard about digital transformation. We are hearing about 5G. We hear about artificial intelligence, machine learning. We are constantly hearing about the value of IoT, all that stuff. But then once all of that is combined, what happens in 2030? So that's our vision from an internal standpoint. And then we said, okay, listen, if that is 2030 for us, and here we are roughly about 6.5 years away from it, what do we need to do in these 6.5 years for us to realize that vision? So we kind of worked our way backwards from 2030 to come to 2023 and then start putting individual milestones. And that's when we realized that, okay, in order to get to that vision, we have to develop, quote unquote, our offerings And some of those offerings will be built, or in other words, an internal Comtech initiative. Some of those offerings will have to be jointly developed with a partner. And that led to us on a whiteboard to do our gap analysis or partner analysis, whatever the right term is. And hence, the areas were identified. So, for example, we have decided that we will partner on the blockchain or distributed ledger technologies. So that gave us an idea, okay, that this is an area that we really need to partner, because we don't want to go and reinvent the wheel. And after our diligence, we ended up selecting a partner. So that's the typical, I would say, sort of a blueprint for us in terms of when we go about identifying a partner. And the objective is very clean. We are going to talk about true research and development, and we are going to talk about aspects that are going to realize or help us realize that vision of year 2030.
Let's look at EVOKE a bit more closely. How is it contributing to the satellite industry?
I think there are, if you were to ask me, there are maybe 4 or 5 different bullets. So number one, understanding what is going on in satellite today, and then sort of putting that on a graph and trying to understand where the trajectory is going to be. Our objective is we want to land where the trajectory is going to be in the next 3, 5, or maybe 6 years. So that gives us the aspect of doing research and development. The second is we want to be very closely collaborating to the standard bodies. Okay, so for example, we are hearing the amalgamation of terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks, or in other words, satellites shaking hands with the mobile network operators, or in other words, the aspect which the industry is hyping today, that is 5G NTN. And we are excited about it from a satellite perspective, that, hey, how is satellite going to enhance, or let's say extend the reach of 5G in underserved or unserved areas? Or how is standardization going to play into all of that? So we want to contribute to the standard bodies. Like, for example, we are there in the 3GPP specifications standard bodies. And at the same time, we are bringing in partners who are doing value propositions or solutions that will enable the end offering. So, for example, we are talking about how will edge orchestration happen when a satellite industry starts to define these aspects. How is direct to device, which is something very interesting, gonna help? How is a sovereign satellite network that is created for an enterprise ecosystem in an underserved area going to connect with, I don't know, thousands of IoT devices, drive data traffic, collect data, analyze data, make sense of data, and then from that you do actionable intelligence to manage that particular ecosystem, that particular enterprise, and impact its business process. At the end of the day, when we are talking about satellite ecosystem, we want to talk about not just the connectivity or the technology, but actually the outcome that particular technology is providing to the end user or the end consumer.
When Comtech announced EVOKE, what was the reaction from the industry?
I think industry is still reacting, I would say. In the first few phases, I think the reaction has been very positive, and I'll try to segment this answer for ease of consumption. So there is one set of reaction from, I would say, the academia side. I spent some time by myself talking to a few of the universities here in United States. They were curious, they were hopeful, and they were quite energetic. They wanted to understand that how an innovation foundry inside Comtech can partner with academia. not only for joint research, not only for joint collaboration, but also how are we enhancing the value of these young kids who are there. When I talk about the startup ecosystem, that was another a level of excitement because the match there was pretty imminent. The startup ecosystem has, in comparison to a larger organization, they have more entrepreneurship, they have less red tape, so to speak. But the point which they do not have is access to the customers. So now if you start thinking about that picture in your head, a startup ecosystem of 5, 6, 7 companies with Comtech, that is a very powerful combination from the market. So that was very welcoming from their standpoint. Then we talk about a reaction from our customer segments. We have so far been doing what I call internally is a tech workshop with our customers. And there, what we are trying to emphasize is to not necessarily, hey, Mr. Customer, this is my product or this is my roadmap. We take it to a higher level and we say, okay, Comtech plus customer equals what in which year? And there we try to understand the impact we are trying to make. So, for example, let's talk about the satellite ecosystem. One of the satellite providers probably is servicing, let's say, a maritime industry. So there is a cruise ship, for example. So the question is, Comtech plus the satellite operator does what from a value proposition or an outcome perspective for that maritime industry? It's not defining that what is the, for example, the product specification of a said modem, but what is the end consumer insight that ship gonna realize? How is the ship gonna use this new technology ecosystem to define better value for itself when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to support, but also for the passengers or let's say their consumers while the ship is in sail. So there was this kind of dialogues that we have started to have with our customers, which again for us it is something new. For them it is very invigorating because now at the end of the day what we are pushing is how does Comtech become a partner to a customer instead of just being merely at a vendor level.
I know EVOKE is very new, but how do you plan to build on it?
I think there are. Let me give you a little bit of preamble to this. So, see the objective of EVOKE. Let's talk about that first. EVOKE has two very high-level objectives. One is we have to enhance our core. So there is obviously a core business wherein we have a plethora of customers. We have to ensure that we are enhancing our core value proposition, number one. Secondly, while the foundation of innovation is laid down by EVOKE, we have to create new solutions in collaboration with our partner ecosystem that is creating new markets or creating new values for our existing customers. Okay. Now this partnership ecosystem, and I have had these questions many a times that okay, is your do you have a set number of partners? Do you have a fixed target? And I always say that the target is not fixed from a numerical perspective, but the target is, I think, floating point from the perspective of how we see technology evolving in the next 3, 5, 7 years, and what is the decision of buy versus partnership. So we will continue to do a few things here, laying the foundation of innovation, constantly doing research and development, ensuring that our partnership ecosystem plus Comtech is delivering solutions that we can test very quickly, and we call that internally as minimum viable product. We want to do this, concept to MVP in as short as 90-day cycle, so that if we can wow a customer with this new solution, we want to do it there. And if we are failing, we want to fail early and move to the next thing. Fourth thing, we want to take this to our existing customers, not from the standpoint, like I was saying, of saying that, okay, this is what I want to sell you today or tomorrow, but this is a problem you might anticipate from your customer ecosystem, Mr. Customer, and how do you suggest us jointly developing these solutions or taking it to, on some sort of a proof of concept in your ecosystem. Fourth, I think the industry, the academia part of the industry. We want to bring in the academia from their research perspective, from what they have contributed on their papers, on their white papers, etc., and see that whether any of that is going to drive any monetizable offering in the near future. I think those are the 3-4 different aspects which we are following and continue to do so.
Anirban, thank you very much for talking to me today. It sounds very interesting.
Thanks for your time.